Hi everyone, what's up? This is Sark here, and today I'm going to talk about Battlefield 2042 patch 3.1, the final patch before Christmas break. That means the final patch this year. As expected, it was released yesterday, Thursday. It's a minor patch, it's just fixing things, it's tweaking the balance, no new stuff, only fixing the old. And that's very much needed in the game, so that's a welcome update for sure. It might actually be more important than the previous 3 patches, because this one fixes a whole lot of important stuff. Basically, what we are going to do, we are going to go through a short summary of what it does, then we are going to go through the updates a little bit more into depth, not all of them, but the most important, which is most of them actually, and we're going to finish off with a short overall state of the game and whether or not you should actually buy it in current state, if you haven't already. Let's go for the short summary. First of all, that's the most important things of all, I think. They have made improvements to bullets, hit registration and consistency, and this is really important because this is, for shooter, this is the most fundamental part, that when you shoot and you actually hit something, you want to hit something that you hit. That's a problem that the game have had for quite some time now, that sometimes when you hit things, it doesn't recognize it. It's kind of, what? I don't know what happened, but yeah. So they made serious improvements to that, and playing yesterday you could tell that for sure. Also, they have done some balance changes for the bullet dispersion and recoil, or bullet spread and recoil, or bullet bloom, or whatever you want to call it. They have also balanced ground vehicles with different 30, 40, 57mm cannons. Mainly they have decreased the effectiveness against the infantry. Finally, they've done a lot of improvements to the audio, improvements overall of the sound experience, the clarity, the distance, directional perception, and this is very much needed as well. Playing yesterday, I think they can still improve this a lot, but it's way better than it used to be. Alright, so let's go through the updates a little bit more into depth. So, first of all, we have general fixes, and that's quality of life fixes. Yeah, there have been a lot of them, primarily for the Xbox players. They have nerfed the Ranger. Effective combat range is decreased, and it also decreased the overall health. When the Ranger spawn on me, I can actually see the health is not 100%. I'm not sure if that's the dirty fix of the overall health, or if that's just a bug. Let's have a look at the audio. They made a couple of tweaks to improve the clarity, distance and directional perception. I think this can still be improved, but it's way better than before at least. They also fixed that sometimes when players were running indoors you couldn't actually hear their footsteps. Moving on to the weapons. First of all, we have a buff. The noob tube, the underbarrel nades, they don't bounce anymore. They explode instantly when they hit something solid when firing at shorter distances. Next up is fix. 40mm AP nades now damage vehicles. And we have a nerf, that's the DXR and the NTV 50 bolt action rifles. They have a slightly 0.2 seconds longer reload animation. In general, and this is kind of what a lot of people do praise at the moment, so in general we have a longer time to bloom out when you fire a weapon, so it takes longer time before the spread is too big or too much to handle. And after you fire the weapon, it's a faster bloom decreased, so huge improvement for tap or burst fire, making it more valid. We have a buff to the hip fire accuracy for all SMGs, and another buff to a lot of weapons. They have adjusted the recoil values to prevent over-aggressive recoil jumps for the AK, the LCMG, the PKP, SFAR and the PP29. So a lot of weapons got less recoil, or at least the final really steep jump that it can make. We have a general buff to the LMGs with less spread and less recoil to just make them more useful. I categorize this as a fix. There's additional improvements to recoil control for all weapons, or at least all automatic weapons. So this is the overall fix for all automatic weapons. It should be easier to handle recoil control, and I think really people feel this because there's been a lot of praise for the gunplay as of this update. Finally, when talking about weapons, we have a buff with the shotgun MCS 880. It does more damage in close range combat. Moving on to vehicles, we have first of all a fix where the vehicle weapon sometimes didn't deal blast damage on direct hits. We have 2 buffs. First of all, the 30mm utility pod upwards fire angle is now easier to use, and it's a bit interesting statement, I think, because it should be a personal preference, I guess, but okay, we'll trust dice of that. The next one is, and I call this a buff, but it's not a clear-cut buff, the Wildcat. For starters, they removed the spread. which I think is a huge buff for the 57mm cannon, by the way. But they also done a few nerfs on it. So they decreased the ammo from 12 to 8, they decreased the impact damage from 85 to 75, and they decreased the blast damage from 70 to 35. So you need to be more accurate with the gun, but on the other hand, as they removed the spread, you can be. So that's why I consider this a buff overall. Finally, when talking about vehicles, we have 2 nerfs. And this is a welcome one, I think. The 30mm cannon is less effective against infantry. It overheats faster, it has a reduced rate of fire and blast damage, and the damage fall-off has been increased at distance. So in effect it means that the rate of fire is decreased from 350 to 330. The hit per bullet has been increased from 0.13 to 0.14, and they also decreased the heat drop per second from 0.5 to 0.475. Finally, they have decreased the blast damage from 20 to 18. In all overall, like the bolties and stuff, you need to be more accurate, you need to be careful so you don't overheat, and you will simply be less effective. The final nerf that I mentioned is the Hovercraft, the 40mm GPL nade launcher, where they decreased the blast damage from 55 to 35, meaning that you can't 2-shot kill people anymore, you need to 3 or 4-shot. Moving on to gadgets, there is a buff to the frag nade. There is an increased time for a frag nade to detonate after its first bounce on a hard collision. It's increased from 1.1 seconds to 1.4 seconds. That is not a buff, but if we look at the next step, that's more. So we got an increase of the frag nade damage to 120, which means it's guaranteed killed on armored players as well. So you can't survive a direct nade just because you have armor anymore. I guess if you play as a dozer, maybe you can. And finally, we have a nerf to reduce the nade spam, where you can only carry 1 frag nade or incendiary, which is decreased from 2. The proc sensor is generally nerfed. The spotting radius has been decreased from 30 meters to 20 meters. The uptime has been increased by half, from 30 seconds to 14 seconds. And finally, the amount of proc sensors a player can carry has been decreased from 2 to 1. So there's a general nerf of the proc sensor. And we have 2 things more to mention. First of all, we have the breakthrough where all rooftop capture objectives have been removed. They are now placed at the bottom. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that moving the rooftop objectives to the bottom makes the houses useless. They don't contribute anything. It could be a hut, it could be a spot in the desert, it could be everything and nothing. So I don't really like this change. I mean, the rooftops were extremely hard to capture. It's simple as that. But at the same time, just putting the objective on the bottom is very much breaking the game design, is very much just, yeah, it is weird. So I expect something to change here in the future as well, because this is just weird. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I'm not sure how they're going to handle it. I mean, I don't know. It is just they are in a rough spot here where nothing is a good solution so far. We have some changes to the actual soldier as well. When proning, your feet is not that much in the way anymore. They also fixed a rare issue where a player could turn invisible when spawning. The issue were when you spawned on a full or destroyed vehicle, I mean, you shouldn't be able to do that. So the game kind of freaked out and you turned invisible. Because you were there but not really there. So I guess this was maybe in like a race condition where you managed to spawn but you shouldn't have been, and now they fixed this at least. That's great. Okay, let's go through the last subject. So we have the overall state of the game and should you buy it, if you haven't already, of course. So let's just bring some clarity to this overall state of the game, and this is not scripted. I think I'm just going to speak from my heart, and I'm not going to let yesterday, that was, despite having a really good fix, it was still a frustrating experience of the game, but I'm not going to let that color my general opinion too much. So first of all, thinking a game is fun or not, that's very personal, and I think that Battlefield 2042 is fun, but I do like the conquest and to some part the breakthrough, most of it. Portal experience is nice to have, and if you consider playing Rush, I think the Portal experience is huge. I don't like Portal in 2042 mode. The maps are not suitable for it. That's my personal opinion. You might think differently, and please do so, by all means. Hazard Zone, I haven't played that much, and it's not really... I don't know, I'm not hooked. The price tag for the game is quite high. So if the price tag were like half the price, then I would say, yeah, sure, go buy it. Even if there's some annoying bugs, it can be really frustrating. Like yesterday, I think I had 5 crashes in 3 hours, which is quite annoying. Still, if it would have half the price tag, go ahead, buy it. Now the price is quite high, so I can't say that for sure. So my advice to anyone that's interested in the game is to go pick a EA Play for a month. It costs, I don't know, $3 something maybe. And you can try the game for 10 hours. And after those 10 hours, you can decide, is this something for you, or is it in too bad of a state right now? Because these 4 fixes that we have got before Christmas, they're actually quite good. And I think we're getting really close to the state of the game that I would like to have when it was released. But it's not really there yet. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so for more Battlefield 2042 updates and gameplay and stuff in the future.